We've got Susan Smith with us, Director of For Women Scotland. Morning, Susan.
Morning.
Good morning. So the situation in schools is a particular concern of yours, yeah?
Yeah, we did a big study on it last year, and we're very worried because we think only 3 of the 243 secondary schools who responded to our FOIs fully comply with the current regulations. So in a way, that what this consultation is doing, it's trying to retrospectively justify what has happened in schools when they put in these mixed-sex toilets. And I use the word mixed-sex advisedly because they've shown stalls opening onto a communal washing area. They're not unisex toilets, which is a one-in, one-out sort of cubicle. And most of the schools have put these in, and they are not compliant with current building regs. But there's also a problem for potential harassment. And we've seen incidents like the occasion in Dundee when a girl was being filmed using the toilet, and they found that a boy had filmed hundreds of incidents of girls going into the mixed-sex toilets.
Right, okay. So from your information at the moment, there are lots of schools that have a mixed facility to different, so that would be what, cubicles, and then people come out either into a larger public space or to a washing area, is that right?
That's right, and these are, they're not fully enclosed cubicles because obviously, as you were discussing with Shona, that would be a problem in and of itself. And I think there is some conversation about they were put in because some people said they'd stop bullying, but this is largely about the behaviour of boys, trying to get the girls' presence to moderate the behaviour of the boys, and actually that doesn't work because what we've seen reports of in schools is that boys are punching out the locks on these doors so that they can then try and open the doors while the girls are in there. And, if you're dealing with your period, that's very difficult. Girls are having to stuff paper in the holes in the doors because they're finding holes where people are peeping through. There are some really awful anecdotal stories coming out of schools in Scotland about these toilets.
So would you ideally see all schools revert to very separate boys and girls facilities?
Yeah, but there is always a possibility for third space provision. They have an obligation to provide a set under the current regulations, which obviously this is seeking to change. They have a duty to provide a certain number of facilities on a single sex basis, and that depends on the number of pupils on the school roll. But there is also, in addition to that, there is a possibility they could provide a third space if that's something that other people are comfortable with or feel they might need.
Mm-hmm. And when we come out of the school situation, though, as Sarah says, at a school you have no choice. As a pupil, It's a setup that is being presented to you, and you have to go along with it. Whereas as an adult using other public spaces, you have a certain level of choice as to where you go and you don't go. But if we're going out into other public spaces, do you have a view on that, Susan?
Yeah, I think the comments about potentially families going to places, especially changing rooms and maybe wanting some kind of family area. And I think you may have people who are carers who think it's important. But I think there is still a need for single-sex facilities. And I think that the majority of people prefer that. And especially, I would say, vulnerable people. I was told the other day about an elderly gentleman who went to the Traverse Theatre and didn't want to use there are single-sex toilets, but they're harder to get to. And he didn't want to use the mixed-sex toilets, so ended up going to the pub across the road. But we're also hearing about ethnic minority women who are saying that they no longer feel comfortable going shopping in town because they don't want to use mixed-sex changing rooms. So I think what you can potentially do is push especially the most vulnerable people, ethnic minority women, survivors of rape, etc., out of society because they're the people who feel least comfortable in these sorts of spaces.
Susan, thank you very much indeed. Susan Smith, Director of For Women Scotland.